and Joshawn Vega. Princeton in white, Harvard in black, and we're off and running in a battle for second place in the Ivy League. And with a Yale loss tonight, could be a battle for first place as well.
Well, this is the time of the year everybody gets to scoreboard watching, but you have to handle the business in front of you first.
Good defense down low from Jerome DeRosier, denying Wisner-Perez.
Just got a little bit too deep, caught under the backboard. Would have been better served to look to reverse that one up.
These are the top two defensive teams in the Ivy League, so this could be a grinder tonight. Richmond Ariri Guzzo's having a big year. He's double-teamed, and it's turned over.
Good timing on the double by Perez.
So Harvard's new starting unit of 5 seniors comes through with a defensive stop. Only the second game of the year for 4 of these 5 players. Tommy McCarthy wants a 3. It's off the mark. Good rebound from Schwieger, who plays big at about 6'7".
You know, just because these guys haven't played a lot this year doesn't mean they're not accustomed. We've seen Wisner-Perez in and out of the lineup at times over the course of his career. Tommy McCarthy saw a ton of run as a first-year starter.
Of course, Corey Johnson's been a key player his entire career with Harvard. Johnson contested 2, bangs in! He hadn't played the last 5 games. He has the first 2 points tonight.
A lot of distance there for Johnson. Thought he had a 3. And using the window to get on the board.
Clean look, Jerome DeRosier. He's missed 2. Rebound to Robbie Feinberg for Harvard. Crimson try to complete the season sweep of Princeton, won by 9 points 3 weeks ago in Princeton. Also Dragovic out for Johnson, 10 to shoot for Harvard.
High screen and roll coming.
McCarthy off the hesitation, in deep, and he stepped on the end line. Ran into big Richmond Ariri Guzzo, 6'9", 230 points.
Yeah, good ball fake at the end.
There's Mitch Henderson, good to see him back. He missed all of yesterday's game. He was dealing with some flu-like symptoms. We talked to him before the game. He said he's feeling much better today.
Absolutely. Nice to see the coach back on the sideline for the ball game.
Miles Stevens, hard drive inside, floater off the mark. This unit has played phenomenal defense for Harvard.
Well, Princeton's tried to go inside using its size advantage, but the guards for Harvard have been quick to double down, and they're using their numbers advantage inside to win the battle of the boards.
Dragovic from way downtown. And a rebounding foul goes on Princeton's Miles Stevens. Wisner-Perez had inside positioning. And then Tommy Amaker had faith in the senior class that hasn't played all that much, giving them the opportunity to start a big game, and they've paid off so far.
Absolutely. Again, you know, some of these guys are used to playing big minutes. McCarthy going back to his first year, Corey Johnson over the course of his career, even Perez at times.
Johnson, the hesitation. DeRosier stuffs him, and Johnson wins it back. So plenty of time on the shot clock for Harvard. Coming off a win against Penn yesterday, the Crimson have won 2 in a row. Princeton's won 4 straight. Feinberg, no.
Never quite got his shoulders squared as he went to turn and shoot.
Tigers looking for their first bucket of the game. Star freshman Jalen Llewellyn runs point.
Almost a walk.
Here's the much improved Richmond Ariri Guzzo. Back to the red-hot Ryan Schwieger. Stripped inside, another solid defensive possession.
Well, we had a chance to talk to assistant coach Brian Eskelson beforehand, and he talks about how competitive the practices are with Harvard, and they use different lineups, and seniors are coming out looking to prove a point.
Well, there's a lot of energy as McCarthy draws a foul on Jalen Llewellyn. Maybe the best thing this unit has done, along with its defense so far, is get a foul on both Miles Stevens and Jalen Llewellyn, 2 key cogs for Princeton.
Absolutely.
Tigers will make the game's first substitution. Ethan Wright quickly enters. Take the spot of Jerome DeRosier. Princeton's won 7 of their last 8 games. Played really well to work their way up into a top 2 spot in the league. McCarthy stripped. It's a takeaway for Schwieger. Attacks Johnson. Blocking foul. Hard take from Ryan Schwieger, the 6'6 sophomore from Matthews, North Carolina.
Yeah, close call there. Johnson just with that last little hop to his left. Never able to get the feet set under him.
Foul on the floor, so an inbound coming for the Tigers.
That's really the win in that battle for Johnson. He gives up the foul, but Schwieger never got the ball up to the rim.
Princeton still has not scored. The game is 4 minutes old. Ethan Wright, deep three, missed it. Princeton's missed its first 4 shots tonight.
Well, really what the impressive part has been is off all those misses, it's been one and done. No offensive rebounds for the Tigers.
Harvard's usual starting 5 now at the scorer's table, ready to check in at the next whistle.
Solid 4-minute burst, and they're hoping to leave with a lead.
McCarthy, deep three. Offensive board, Johnson. And he scored 2 more. Corey Johnson, 4. Princeton, nothing in the game's first 4.5 minutes.
You gotta love when the hustle guys come out and pitch a shutout early on.
Miles Stevens to end the Tiger drought, and he bangs it in. So both sides have gotten a bank deposit today.
Well contested 3 that time. Stevens will take the glasses help dunk.
First 3 for Miles Stevens, one of the most important players in the Ivy League for what he does on both ends. Dragovic down low, Perez through contact. Second effort is good. The senior from Berlin, Illinois, when he's played, that's his bread and butter. Stevens attacking, draws the foul on Johnson. Well, Harvard seniors give a great turn of 5+ minutes to put the Crimson ahead.
Of handling travel schedules, video scouting, things of that nature, but promoted to assistant coach in 1 year, and eventually he got the associate head coach job last season and did a nice job last night, guys.
Yeah, Tyler helped Princeton to a 1-point overtime win against Dartmouth. We talked to Mitch Henderson before the game. He'd been dealing with a little bout of the flu last night. So last night was just brutal. He was happy to get back, but he did say you might not want to be too close to me yet. Miles Stevens makes both free throws. He's scored all 5 for Princeton. Mitch Henderson has done a great job developing his assistant coaches. Cornell's head coach Brian Earl was Mitch Henderson's top assistant before moving to Cornell a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it's a school that's widely renowned for being able to produce quality college coaching. And when you start at such a young age and get that great learning curve and be able to build your brand up quickly as Brett McConnell has, it only serves to help yourself in the long run.
Richmond Ariri Guzzo picks up the foul, already Princeton's 3rd. It's his first. So this is the usual 5 for Harvard now after the seniors on senior night gave the Crimson a lead. Noah Kirkwood, Chris Lewis, Bryce Aiken, Cale Catchings, and Christian Juzang. Aiken, pretty move. He left it short. Scored 33 last time Harvard played Princeton. A 9-point Crimson win on February 15th.
Yeah, trying to get himself heated up there. He is not going to waste too much time before looking for his shot.
Aiken averaging more than 20 points a game since returning from injury for league play. Lewis backing in. Soft touch over Ariri Guzzo.
Chris Lewis so diligent working on his post game.
That's goaltending. It had hit the backboard before Chris Lewis high-pointed it. Give Ryan Schwieger his first 2 points of the game.
Yeah, good quick reaction there by Schwieger. He picked the ball up off the floor, was able to turn and recognize, and caught Lewis sort of flat-footed.
How good a move was that, though, from Chris Lewis over the big, rangy Ariri Guzzo?
I mean, it's unstoppable, basically, when you get a post who can turn to his left hand and use that left hand like that, which is his dominant hand, by the way.
Matchup of 2 of the best centers in the Ivy League this season, Chris Lewis and Richmond Ariri Guzzo. Lewis inside. Now he's matched up with Jerome DeRosier as Ariri Guzzo gets a spell on the bench. With 8 to shoot, it comes from the star freshman Noah Kirkwood. Kirkwood with 2. Contested shot is well short. Great defense from Ryan Schwieger.
Yeah, didn't go for the head fake. Kirkwood unable to shake him off for a step back. DeRosier, backdoor feed. Miles Stevens lost it.
First time we've seen Princeton go back to the old well of the Princeton backdoor offense, and Harvard is ready for it.
Staple of the Tigers, Bryce Aiken was all over it, got a hand on the pass, knocked it off the knee of Stevens. Have to be aware of all those backdoor cutters whenever you're playing Princeton.
Aiken defended well, gets to the tin, and it falls out. Solid defense from Max Johns, who was physically pounding him the whole way.
Yeah, that's what you have to do with Aiken. You have to try to beat him up, push him off the spot.
Oh, Miles Stevens goes right around Noah Kirkwood.
Just a little head fake, a little crossover, and Stevens says Kirkwood still has a lot to learn.
Quick 7 for Stevens. Llewellyn intercepts the pass. So Princeton's taken its first lead. They're on a bit of a run. Tigers have scored 9 of the last 12 points, make it 12 of 15. A 3 for Schwieger.
Just gave him a little bit of daylight. That was all he wanted for the shot.
Princeton by 4. Aiken off the screen. Has a mismatch on Jerome DeRosier. Forced to pick it up. Just 5 to shoot. Christian Juzang, deep 3. Pretty stagnant offense for this first Harvard unit since they entered the game under the 16-minute mark.
Yeah, it hasn't been moving around much. Tried to get it inside to Lewis a couple times. Aiken's gotten a couple decent shot attempts, but they haven't fallen for him.
To the hardwood, Juzang diving for it. Llewellyn is on the end line, but he gets the timeout first, so the ball will stay with Princeton when we come back. Tigers in final spot they're playing tonight down in Providence.
I'll tell you, I don't know if I'd want any part of Cornell. I know that they've been sort of a middling team, but Morgan can catch fire at any time, and he can fill it up quickly.
Bryce Aiken on the back door. Hale Catchings free for 3. Juricic keeps it alive with a tip out. Mentioned Morgan. How about Jimmy Boeheim? He's played really well over the last few weeks.
Absolutely. That team's starting to gel.
Good feed from Haskett. Catchings missed it. Harvard's missed 6 consecutive shots. And on that same stretch, Princeton's made 4 in a row.
Well, great look for Catchings, but he was too worried about the contact. He saw all the bodies around him, and he was worried about trying to be able to finish through the contact, worried about finishing first.
Schwieger using that size, backing into Catchings. Altered well. Hale Catchings stood tall against the big guard, Schwieger.
Yeah, a lot of contact without a foul there.
Neil Juricic scored 10 points, made a couple of threes yesterday. The 59-53 Harvard win. Rio Haskett, step back 3.
Well, you mentioned Juricic. Rio Haskett had a huge game off the bench for the Crimson last night. Knocked down a few threes in that one, and he starts off hot today.
He scored 11 last night, with the role players getting it done for Harvard in their 6-point win over the Quakers. The time of year Haskett played his best basketball last season as well, the final few weeks of the year into the Ivy tournament. Clean look, Max Johns answers with 3.
Yeah, somebody just got lost on the defensive side for Harvard, no communication. Johns left wide open in the corner, makes him pay.
Aiken a crossover, Stevens recovers with the swat. Mitch Henderson called Miles Stevens our defensive center, our grounding point. He may be the best defender in the Ivy League.
Very possible. There's a lot of great individual defenders, but Stevens showing you why right there.
Similar to Harvard's Justin Bassey, who's out again tonight with an ankle injury. He has the versatility to guard anyone from a 6-foot speedster like Bryce Aiken to a 6'8 or 6'9 forward.
Well, you talk about guys who can do a lot of different things on offense, but it's the same thing on defense. If you guard multiple positions, it makes you that much more valuable to your team.
Aiken from a mile away. 33 the last time these teams played. He has not scored yet today. Llewellyn stop and pop off the mark. That was a tough shot. Harvard is controlling the glass early. Princeton leads. They've shot it much better than the Crimson. Juzang chases down the loose ball. Still 15 on the shot clock. Aiken into the teeth of the defense. He traveled.
Took one too many steps as he tried to regain his balance there. Maybe was hoping the whistle was a foul call. Yeah, even with the bobble as he goes to reset himself.
Miles Stevens has had a well-rounded game to start things off for Princeton. 7 points, but he's played lockdown defense on Harvard's Bryce Aiken.
Just means Harvard is going to have to look somewhere else for offensive production.
DeRosier into the paint. Extra pass frees up Llewellyn. Haskett boards it.
Juricic doing a good job flying at the shooter that time.
Beautiful feed. Kirkwood off the mark. Rebounding foul goes on DeRosier. It's his first. Kirkwood couldn't capitalize off the dime from Rio Haskett.
Nifty little behind the back pass. Harvard looking for highlights, but they got to find a way to just hit shots here.
Just one of their last 9 as Princeton has gone ahead by 4. Off the screen, Aiken falling away is on the board.
It's one thing I love about Bryce Aiken. Even midair, he's always able to square himself up and find that balance. That's the mark of an elite shooter.
Noah Kirkwood picks up Miles Stevens. These are 2 big physical bodies. Stevens taking the freshman down low, and he nails another. One of the most experienced players in the Ivy League has had a good night so far against one of the Ivy League's best freshmen.
Well, Kirkwood just giving him a little bit too much room that time, allowed Stevens to get too deep into the low post there, and he's able to create that space for that turnaround.
Milo Juricic driving. Kirkwood late in the shot clock, gets to the rack, no. Juricic with 3 on the shot clock. Here's Haskett. That's off the mark. It's a clean look for Harvard. Shots just are not falling for the Crimson.
Yeah, good job by Juricic not to panic. Under 5 on the shot clock. Knew he had an open shooter and found him. Haskett unable to bury it.
I don't think we're surprised this is a low-scoring game. These are the top 2 defenses in the Ivy League. Schwieger's shot defended well. Haskett got his hand on it. Aiken into the lane. Layup is good. Split right between Schwieger and Llewellyn.
Such a quick first step. Blink of an eye, he's at the 10.
Guy that he has done a lot of training with and who's good at plays like that. Kyrie Irving here to watch as his protege Aiken adds 2 more. And Kyrie comes to his feet courtside.
Another guy who undersized, especially in the big man's game. Don't tell him he's too small to finish through the contact. Good things usually happen for Harvard.
Minute of game time. That's pulled Harvard from 4 points down to back level. Game with 2 teams tied for second in the Ivy standings at 8-3. 1 game back to first place Yale. Mason Forbes has checked in for the first time for Harvard. Richmond to Riri Guzzo going hard at Lewis. Soft touch for 2.
Friendly bounce off the back iron. Interesting shift in the lineup here for Harvard. Tommy Amaker going with a bigger group. Catchings back out there along with Lewis.
Aiken on the bench for a short stint after scoring the last 6 for Harvard. Chris Lewis puts the tush into a Riri Guzzo. Catchings driving. Follows his miss and sticks it home. Cale Catchings, a guy who's basically come out of nowhere over the last 2 weeks, had a huge influence on the Ivy games last weekend at Brown and Yale.
I mean, you almost wonder that think the guy spent the first part of the season in the weight room. He is super jacked, and you have to love the fitness level. He obviously played a great game against Yale with 19 points and showing some toughness inside there.
Rio Hatchett reaches out and fouls jump shooter Drew Freiberg. Free throws for Freiberg, the freshman from State College, Pennsylvania.
Plucked him right out of Penn State's backyard.
He scored more than 1,600 points playing for State College High School. Freiberg was a finalist for Mr. Basketball in the state of Pennsylvania last year, and with Philadelphia and Pittsburgh bookending that state, they play some pretty good high school basketball in Pennsylvania.
You put together an all-stars team worth of talent, probably about 5-6 deep, just that of talent that comes out of Pennsylvania. Not to mention the prep school system that they have there as well.
Princeton's won 4 straight since losing to Harvard on February 15th. The Crimson have won their last 2. Winner here tonight will at worst be in second in the Ivy at the end of the night. And if Yale loses tonight, the winner could be in first.
Big opportunity at stake.
Yale playing Columbia in New Haven tonight. Inside the final 5 minutes of the first half, Haskett aggressive, out of control, and the shot's way off the mark. Princeton this year a little more defensive-minded. Don't have as much offensive firepower, so they've slowed things down and become the best defensive team in the Ivy League, and they're playing a game at that tempo again today.
Absolutely, and you know that's a tempo that Harvard is usually very comfortable playing at. It's always been a defense-first team, something Tommy Amaker preaches day in and day out. Wants his teams to be tough defensively, tough on the glass. And Harvard is usually among the top teams in the Ivy League in defense.
Llewellyn slashing to the tin, counted and one.
A little sigh of relief for Llewellyn. He went up, didn't know exactly how he was coming down. I don't think he realized how he was going to get that ball up, and just sort of settled for a little flip shot from behind his head. A terrific finish.
Jalen Llewellyn was one of the biggest recruits to come into the Ivy League this year, an ESPN 4-star top 100 recruit. North Pole Hoops, which if you're not familiar is based in Canada, rated the Canadian the number 5 player coming out of Canada last year. It's an area Harvard has recruited really well, but Princeton won this battle.
Yeah, and it's a constant area that teams are looking at more and more to pull great talent from.
Averaged 10 points a game in his freshman season, and Mitch Henderson said he's now starting to not play like a freshman. He's playing like a sophomore. He stopped looking to the bench after every mistake. He's not afraid of being yanked out of the game on a quick hook.
Exactly. I think obviously, Kennedy leaving for the rest of the season plays into that a little bit more. Feels more comfortable in his spot, secure in his spot on the team. And, just having that inner peace, that inner comfort goes a long way for a player's confidence, especially a young player.
Richmond Arire Guzzo will have to leave the game. He just picked up his second foul, hedging off the Bryce Aiken screen. His number 2 scorer for Princeton out on the bench. Jerome DeRosier takes his spot. Aiken blows past DeRosier. He's rejected. Miles Stevens got him again.
Aiken thought he was good once he beat his man.
Blocking foul called on Catchings. Tried to slide in and take the charge. That's Catchings' second. And it's South play with 3:58 to go in the first. Bogovic, Robbie Feinberg, Weisner Perez, and Corey Johnson played 4.5 minutes, and Harvard was ahead 6-3 when they came out of the game. Llewellyn starting to get aggressive. How'd that not go? Fell out of the rim.
Chris Lewis intimidated it on the way up, I think. Llewellyn got it over him, but Lewis could talk it into giving up.
Stared that basketball into submission. Kirkwood gets his man in the air and sticks home his first 2.
Great little head fake there.
Went to work on Max Johns. Princeton playing without Richmond Arire Guzzo. He's on the bench with 2 fouls. Clean look, Ethan Wright. Lewis rebounds it.
A little help from Juricic.
Should be a sequence that plays into Chris Lewis's strengths here with Arire Guzzo out of the game with foul trouble. Juricic stops on a dime. Didn't go. Everything but the finish for Danilo Juricic.
Yeah, got to use the glass there. Great ball fake, one side, reverse back up the other, but use the window, it's your friend. Ask Corey Johnson, ask Miles Stevens.
Stevens with the size mismatch against Aiken. He missed the layup with some help from Kirkwood.
I was going to say, somebody's got to help out Aiken on the low post there. I'm surprised nobody doubled down.
Aiken from the other side of the river, way off the mark. That was about 5 seconds into the shot clock. He took a 25-footer, but when you're scoring 20 a game, you can't really get on somebody for shot selection.
Yeah, it's one of those, if you hit it, you look like a genius. If you miss it.
Offensive foul on Miles Stevens, illegal screen. That's his second.
Stevens just continuing to move along, cut off basket there. Harvard has to try to take advantage of some of these key players in foul trouble for Princeton. And only now would they be in position to get to the bonus, but you've got some key defenders off the floor. Love to see them go to the inside a little bit more.
Kirkwood does just that, all the way to the tin. And it falls out. Lewis backing in against DeRosier. Curling, missed it. Rebounding foul goes on Danilo Juricic. By Harvard is just 10 for 35 from the floor. That is sub 30%.
Yeah, and they've had a bunch of these, missed layups, missed opportunities. That time, DeRosier does a good job standing up. Lewis doesn't allow him to get close to the rim. And that hook shot, a little bit of a tougher finish for Lewis. He's trying to find the angle off the glass. He needs to get closer into the lane to be able to finish easily.
Schwieger driving dish. DeRosier, corner, no. Haskett takes the rebound away from Freiberg.
That's one thing that has allowed Harvard to stay in this game is the rebounding. They're not allowing Princeton any second chance opportunities.
Harvard plus 9 on the glass already before halftime. Haskett at Schwieger, overpowered it.
A lot of tough layup attempts by Harvard.
Princeton defense, they said the message coming in for Mitch Henderson, a lot of it was about defense, about staying in front of their men after Harvard scored 78 on them the first time these teams met. Schwieger, no, hasn't quite been as hot as the last 3 games. Wright misses the follow.
Well, both teams going cold now.
Princeton hasn't scored in more than 3 minutes. Harvard's gone more than 2 minutes without a basket. Lewis picks it out of the air and scores. So he was a wide receiver, a center, and an offensive lineman there, using his strength, using his size, and using his leaping ability.
I guess that time he was a tight end, going up and plucking the ball in traffic.
Harvard back on top. Likely the last possession of the half for Princeton. Schwieger's off the mark from 3. Game clock and shot clock basically in unison. It's going to be a buzzer beater opportunity.
Right.
Got to assume that goes through Bryce Aiken, who's had 3 of them.
He wants it in his hands. Look for a high screen situation, see if he calls for Lewis or Juricic.
Got to go, 5 seconds left. Aiken into the lane, floater, no. Right the rebound. Princeton wanted a foul, they won't get it. Wright ran into Lewis, that was a dangerous.
Over the final few minutes of the second chance points.
Princeton brings back in Miles Stevens and Richmond Riri Guzzo, both dealt with some first half foul trouble. They start half 2 with 2 fouls apiece. It was a quiet first half for Riri Guzzo fighting through that foul trouble. Stevens has been loud all game. 11 points for Miles Stevens to lead all scorers. Aiken quickly the other way for 2. Bryce Aiken in a flash.
Calm under pressure, saw Riri Guzzo coming, just said, you just fly right by, big man. I'll flip this one up the other side.
Riri Guzzo looking to get involved on the offensive end. So they scored 2 points today. Moving around Lewis, should be 3 in the key. Nothing called. Ball stays with Princeton with 8 to shoot. With 5, Schwieger spins, tough shot. Juzang's there to clean it up.
Nice defense by Juzang. Yeah, it could have been a 3-second violation, could have been a travel call as Riri Guzzo caught that ball and came down and then fell to the floor with it.
Noah Kirkwood for Harvard. It's held to just 2 points in the first half. He scored 28 last week at Brown. Lewis in on Riri Guzzo. And it doesn't go. Offensive board, Catchings, he's got it.
Now there's the strength of Cale Catchings manufacturing itself inside. Just muscles DeRosier off the ball and puts it back up and in.
And Catchings has a steal. He has been the flash in the pan for Harvard over the past 2 weeks, coming out of nowhere and making a big impact for the Crimson. Catching's inside, and there's a third foul on Richmond, Ariri Guzzo, and it's a soft one.
Yeah, I was gonna say that would be interesting to see if Harvard attacked either of those guys early to try to draw that third foul. So you'll see Catchings on the putback here, but that was one that Ariri Guzzo could not afford to pick up. Lewis had him on his back. And he just reaches in and picks up a cheapie.
He will stay in the game. Mitch Henderson letting him play it out here with 3 fouls.
Right at him.
Lewis in on the big fella. Aiken, pretty move past Stevens. There's 2. Not many people can make one of the Ivy League's best defenders look like that.
It's almost like he's wearing slippers the way Aiken is kind of sliding around on the floor out there.
It's made it look like Stevens was wearing slippers on that last trip. A quiet game for freshman Jalen Llewellyn, who averages 10 a game. He scored just 2 in the first half. With 6 to shoot, Stevens backing in. Catching's looking for the charge. Ariri Guzzo missed a layup. Corrals has missed, but it has not been a good night for Richmond. Ariri Guzzo, who will head to the free throw line here. Foul on Chris Lewis, that's his first.
Yeah, Lewis just a little over-aggressive, trying to muscle Ariri Guzzo off his spot here. A good stick-to-itiveness. Now the junior able to continue to battle. Got that offensive rebound and went right back to work.
The jump in production for Richmond Ariri Guzzo this year has been just remarkable. The junior had only averaged about 2 points a game his first 2 years. This season averaging 11.6 rebounds and shooting 70% from the floor. Mitch Henderson said he's a Hall of Fame person as well. Amazing student. He wants to be an orthopedic surgeon when he gets through Princeton and medical school. Said we told him he needed to love basketball the way that he loves school, and he's embraced that this year and really made himself a better player. Aiken for 3.
Watch out.
All of a sudden, Bryce Aiken has 13 points, and that prompts a Princeton.
And a lot of folks to Bryce's old school feel, he said on the court. And recently, Kyrie quoted as saying he can tell Bryce has been watching tapes of how he plays in the NBA, something he certainly encourages. And Kyrie almost played here locally as well. His dad had his number retired at Boston University, and Kyrie said when he was in 5th grade, he was pretty sure he was going to BU, but of course wound up playing a season at Duke, guys.
Jalen Llewellyn rejected by Chris Lewis. Tyler, thank you. And yeah, there's a lot of Kyrie Irving in Bryce Aiken. The explosiveness, the ability to get to the rim even at his small stature.
Absolutely, and the handle as well. We talked about Aiken being very slippery on the offensive end, able to slide away from defenders. Has that ability to sort of play with the ball on a string.
In the corner, a block from Kirkwood, stuffing Johns to set up the shot clock violation. So Princeton has just 1 basket over the last 8 minutes of basketball dating back to the first half.
Yeah, Harvard's really put the clamps on.
A tough night for Ryan Schwieger, who was averaging 23 a game over his last 3. He's scored just 4 today. Kirkwood stepping back against Schwieger, short.
I think Schwieger's been sort of warded off from driving to the basket, knowing that Lewis is kind of waiting for him in there. And he hasn't found much space to shoot for the outside either.
Stevens not afraid of one of the best shot blockers going right at Lewis.
Well, he went right at him and then went right under him to spin it in.
Miles Stevens scored 13 of Princeton's 26. I'm no math major, but that's half the points.
Keeping the Tigers hanging around here, even as Bryce Aiken gets hot on the other end.
Senior day for Harvard, but the class that really has its DNA all over this team is the junior class. Still a whole other year to play for guys like Juzang and Aiken and Lewis, Bassey, and Seth Towns whenever he's healthy once again.
Absolutely, and you know that's been the toughest part for this Harvard team this year is, you know, they've played well in stretches. You've seen some young guys really blossom, guys like Catchings and Kirkwood, but you know, you can think this junior class that you mentioned, that vaunted junior class, has really never been at full strength this season.
Foul on Ethan Wright was his first. Princeton's picked up 2 early fouls this half. Kirkwood attacking Wright. It's a size mismatch, and Kirkwood takes him to school for 2. That was pretty.
Some old school low post moves from Noah Kirkwood.
Got the 2 top Canadians in the Ivy League in Noah Kirkwood and Jalen Llewellyn. Outstanding freshmen playing head-to-head today. Lewis called for the hand check foul. That's his second.
Yeah, just had that hand in the back. Raguzzo doing a good job hanging it around here. Mitch Henderson trusting him not to pick up a 4th foul, and so far he's done that.
Stevens, head down, right to the rack for 2 more. Harvard's had no answers for Miles Stevens. 15 of Princeton's 28.
No, and they've made a defensive adjustment as well. Kirkwood, who did a pretty good job shutting down Schwieger. Well, now with Schwieger out of the game, they switch Kirkwood onto Stevens, but it doesn't matter. Stevens still finding a way to get to the rim.
Lewis left it short. Saw Guzzo didn't even leave his feet to try and challenge that with 3 fouls.
Nope.
Stevens back inside, draws the foul. Then one of the great things about Miles Stevens, and it's similar to Harvard's Justin Bassey, is he'll take whatever role the team needs that day. So he has games where he knows his job is to play defense, doesn't score all that much. But on a night like tonight, when everybody else is struggling, he's just kind of accepted the load of being the focal point on offense.
Absolutely, and that's the beauty of those kind of amorphous type players. You know, he sees his team needs somebody to get to the rim. Well, that's what he'll do. He'll take the ball, and he'll get to the rim.
Boy, Bryce Aiken went through the courtside seats, took out a couple of paying patrons, back to his feet. I think Celtics fans are happy he was 3 seats right of Kyrie Irving.
Absolutely.
Almost ended up right in Kyrie's lap.
Well, Aiken comes up with a smile on his face. I'm guessing that he may have gotten a friendly word or 2 on his way back to the floor.
Harvard still by 6. Princeton has scored just 6 points in the first 6 minutes of the second half. Stevens has all 6 of them, and he misses the 3-pointer. That is not his game. He's an at-the-rim type of guy. With Guzzo out of the game, Lewis goes at DeRosier.
Lost the dribble.
Inside Lewis again, spinning on DeRosier, muscling home 2.
Even with Schwieger dropping down for the double, Lewis too quick with that spin move. Pretty clear Harvard wants to utilize its size advantage now with Guzzo out of the game in foul trouble.
8-point lead is Harvard's largest so far today. Johns to the tin, strong. 5 points for freshman Max Johns. Aiken working on Stevens to the screen. Quick ball movement. Kirkwood has it with 12. Kirkwood draws the foul. Free throws coming.
Smart play by Aiken in midair. You know, fooled everybody into thinking he was going for the shot, dished it off to Lewis instead. And that sets the whole Princeton defense out of rotation. Kirkwood attacks it off the dribble, forces his way to the line. This is the one part of his game that you would expect to see him improve on as time goes on.
If you can believe it, these are Harvard's first 2 free throws of the night as Kirkwood makes the first. That's surprising because Bryce Aiken himself generally gets to the line about 8 times a game. In fact, when these teams played on February 15th, Bryce Aiken took 15 free throws.
That's how you get to 30-plus points quickly.
Also interesting that those were the first 2 free throws when you consider the fact that Princeton has players in foul trouble like Richmond or Guzzo. He's just picked up fouls off the ball or on the floor. Back to an 8-point Harvard lead. Princeton would love to get Ryan Schwieger going. Reigning Ivy Player of the Week has just 4 points. On cue, he nails a 3.
Yeah, looking for a quick catch and fire. They did a good job screening away from the ball. They got him away from Kirkwood, and Catchings doesn't close out quickly enough. Schwieger burns him for a quick trigger 3.
Both Princeton back within 5. Trying to hang around. Sooner or later, you'd imagine they start to make some shots. Lewis with that height advantage again, goes to work and scores.
Yeah, good patience by Lewis, just sort of waited for everybody to clear out, give him a little bit of room, backs his man down in the low post, and that turnaround hook shot's been a friend of his.
Both Ariri, Guzzo, and DeRosier out of the game, so it's gone to Sebastian Much and Will Glaston inside. Oh, that's pure from Jalen Llewellyn.
Miscommunication there. Whether there was a switch or not, Lewis, I think, lost his footing for a moment. That opened up the jumper for Llewellyn.
Aiken step back three. He got it.
He knows he's in a rhythm now. He knows it. And that's bad news for Princeton.
He scored 16, and that's just unguardable. There's a steal from Kirkwood.
Watch out for Aiken trailing.
Kirkwood's pass out of control. Much takes it back.
Numbers for Princeton.
3-on-1. Schwieger straight in for two. So a quick 5 in a row for Schwieger on the Princeton side. It's back to a 6-point game.
Yeah, Kirkwood, Lewis kind of hanging their heads after the turnover. They're going to get back on defense. Aiken was left all alone to defend three.
Winner of this game will be at worst in second place in the Ivy tonight. It's been a good one. Aiken comes up empty through contact.
Stevens got a piece of the ball.
Stevens coast to coast. Offensive foul.
Toughest ask of any conference.
Weekends ago when Princeton and Harvard played each other as part of that weekend, the 9-point Harvard win was the most lopsided game of the 8 that weekend. 4 games went to overtime.
Never any easy outs in the Ivy League.
Columbia may just be playing its way into postseason conversation. They beat Brown yesterday. It looks like they're going to beat Yale today. Bryce Aiken's been red hot. He's up to 16 points, 10 this half. There's a heat check way off the mark. Smothered by DeRosier. Princeton pushing. Schwieger. Kale Catchings forces the turnover. Juricic on the deck to win it back for Harvard.
Harvard fortunate not to get caught with an over and back there with Juricic sitting squarely at the center logo. Could have been called over and back, but Harvard retains possession. I think Juricic has hit the floor about 8 times already, and he's only played maybe, 10, 15 minutes.
Juricic to the 10, gets it to go. His first 2.
Great acrobatics midair. He goes up looking to score with the left, has to switch to the right, and just pushes it over the rim.
Yesterday, Danilo was doing it with the 3, hit a couple big ones. Today, he's done most of his work inside. Schwieger's picked up some of the scoring load for Princeton. Here, he's called for the charge.
It's a couple of offensive fouls now that have been drawn by Harvard. You asked how Princeton was getting in foul trouble. Well, they're not doing it by putting Harvard at the line, but they're doing it by getting a little bit out of control on offense and committing some silly reach-in fouls on defense.
8-point lead for Harvard. The Crimson have never gotten it to double digits today. 8 matches, the largest lead today for Harvard.
It's kind of a vulnerable point of the ball game for Princeton. They can't afford to give up a big Harvard run here.
The center, Ariri Guzzo, switched on to Aiken. Tries to isolate. Aiken all the way in, 2 more. It's a 10-point lead.
Too easy for Bryce Aiken. We got a big man out there on him. He's going to put him in the dribble machine and go to work.
In a little drier spin cycle. Llewellyn to quiet the Harvard run. That's a big shot. Jalen Llewellyn. Mitch Henderson will take timeout. It's a Crimson team that's had some games where they've scored a ton. They've had games like last night where they have to win with defense as well, and they scored 88 just 2 games ago against Yale down in New Haven.
Any coach will tell you, though, the hallmark of a really good team is a team that can find a way to win multiple ways.
Juricic to the 10! Authoritative drive.
Well, no protection that time. Juricic knowing that Princeton in foul trouble. They're not going to contest at the rim, and he takes it with an extra mean streak.
Reignited the crowd on the timeout. Ariri Guzzo quiets them for a bit. Second foul on Danilo Juricic. 2 more free throws for Richmond. Ariri Guzzo, who missed his first 2.
Don't mind putting him at the line.
Ariri Guzzo, born in Italy, came to the U.S. when he was 12 years old, settled in the Trenton, New Jersey area. not all that far away from Princeton. Played at Trenton Catholic, where he averaged 15 points, 9 rebounds a game as a high school senior. A high arcing free throw from Ariri Guzzo. He makes them both.
Yeah, a little bit of rainbow. That's why he prefers to do most of his work around the rim.
And entering tonight, Ariri Guzzo, a 70% shooter from the floor this year. Corey Johnson creates space. Doesn't get the roll. Touched every part of the rim.
No kind bounce for the senior that time. He got the glass in the first half, didn't get it this time around. They got Juzang stuck on Ariri Guzzo here.
Stevens traveled. He's been slipping a bit today, still playing well. 15 for Stevens, but Harvard on time.
When you talk about Ivy Madness, because then they'd be going up against a team that they'd already lost to this season, whether it's Cornell, Brown, even maybe a Columbia team that sneaks in.
Harvard will play Cornell and Columbia next weekend to round out the season. Aiken in the paint. Juricic missed it. Well defended inside. Max Johns had a good game there.
Yeah, pretty good look though still for Juricic. You don't mind him taking the ball right to the basket.
Schwieger missed the three. The tough weekend next weekend for Princeton. They've got a desperate Brown team, and they've got Yale on the schedule. Llewellyn, deep three, left it short. At its core today, the defense for Harvard has been the key, with the Crimson ahead by 7.
Well, the defense and the rebounding, again, those second chance opportunities have not been there for Princeton.
Haskett ran into trouble. Ariri Guzzo stood his ground. Haskett ties it up, and that'll keep the possession arrow with Harvard.
That's another hustle point there for Rio Haskett.
Princeton only had one timeout left, so when Ariri Guzzo first had possession, he couldn't burn that final timeout and try to save it for the Tigers.
We'll be putting some time back on the clock here. We're taking time off.
Bryce Aiken leads all scorers with 16. Into Chris Lewis. Straight to the rack. Too strong. You can say that about Chris Lewis a lot. He is very strong. Overpowered it there. Kirkwood jars the ball free. Off to the races. He's bumped. Out of bounds. No foul.
Hoping for a call. Didn't get it.
Fans, don't forget to secure your tickets today to the Ivy League men's and women's basketball tournaments on March 16th and 17th in New Haven, Connecticut. 8 teams, 6 games, 2 days, one ultimate back-to-back to see who punches the ticket to the big dance. Select ticket packages are still available. Visit ivymadness.com today. It'll be a lot of fun. We'll start that weekend Friday on Ivy on ESPN, Friday the 15th. With an 8-hour shoot-around show previewing all of the madness. Noah Kirkwood's called for the foul.
Denote 1 hour to each team?
Yep, each team has a 45-minute shoot-around and a press conference. We cover it all. Miles Stevens missed inside. A rebounding foul is going on Harvard.
Yep.
Lewis and Juzang were both there. The foul goes on Lewis, his third.
Credit Stevens for just continuing to work hard in the low post. Had the smaller Juzang on him, goes right at him. Missed the first time around, but stays up there to get the second try.
That's one thing you never have to worry about with Miles Stevens. He has an incredible work rate. Mitch Henderson said, he's understated. He doesn't like the spotlight. He's a guy who just goes out, gets the job done night in, night out for the Tigers. Said they'll miss him when this season winds down.
Well, those are the guys the coaches always love, right? The ones who just go about their business.
Stevens, shot altered by Lewis. Ariri Guzzo, wave it off. Foul on the floor. It is the 7th foul on Harvard, so that means Richmond Ariri Guzzo will have a 1-and-1 opportunity.
Now Princeton's starting to put its nose to the grindstone a little bit. They're really muscling their way inside. Stevens doing some good work in there. Ariri Guzzo starting to become more of a factor.
2 for 4 at the line today. He is a good free throw shooter overall, 76% on the season. And that high arcing rainmaker's perfect.
Snaps the Princeton drought. It had been 2.5 minutes since their last point.
Had some long ones today. The longest, a 6-minute drought that spanned the first and second half. All that being said, Princeton's back within 5 points. They've trailed by as much as 10.
Yeah, as much as you can laud Harvard's defense for being able to slow down Princeton, you could say the Tigers have done much the same. You know, Harvard's been unfortunate, missed a bunch of shots around the rim, but Princeton has caused some of those misses.
Crimson haven't scored in nearly 3 minutes. Aiken finds Lewis. He's fouled. Schwieger coming in from behind.
Everybody drawn in by the dazzling dribbling display of Bryce Aiken. And Lewis just waits. Calmly receives the pass. Let's see if this is a block. Yeah, he went through the arm to get the ball.
So free throws for Lewis, a 68% free throw shooter. That a stat stuffer type of game, now 9 points, 6 rebounds.
Well, if it wasn't for all of Harvard's success in close games, you wouldn't think that they would be a good team in close games because as a group, they do have some issues at the foul line.
I think the one thing you can't account for statistically is the clutchness of Bryce Aiken.
Exactly.
And 3 buzzer beaters in 3 weeks.
That sort of tilts the scales back in their favor a little bit. But if you're going to be a good team, especially in March, a lot of times that means winning games at the free throw line.
Stevens drive and dish. Here's Llewellyn, been more active this half. Stevens down low, through Lewis, plus the foul. Miles Stevens has led Princeton all game. He scored 17. That's 4 on Lewis.
Well, we talked about Princeton being in foul trouble earlier in the second half. Now it's Harvard that's going to have to tweak things. Chris Lewis coming out. It's going to only serve to give Princeton even more of an advantage inside. And you go back to that stretch where Riguzo was on the floor playing with 3. And he was out there for a good 4 minutes. Did not pick up a fourth. That could have thrown Princeton off its game. And he stuck around, and so the Tigers stick around.
It's a 4-point game. Yeah, it's interesting. We talked to Brian Askiltson, the Harvard assistant coach, before the game today, and he said, we do a lot of drills where we say, okay, Chris is fouled out or Bryce is fouled out. You got to play without him, figure out how to score, and Aiken scores 2 more. Timeout, Tommy Amaker at Harvard.
He is thrilled that he doesn't.
Champion Princeton Tigers against a Harvard team that has won 5 Ivy championships since 2011. Long 2 is way off the mark. Kirkwood cleans up the rebound, rejecting Schwieger.
Schwieger, though, able to go outside in, get position that time on Kirkwood. Again, offensive rebounds have been a focal point of Princeton here over the last few minutes.
Winner of this game will likely be tied with Yale for first in the Ivy League with the Bulldogs down big to Columbia. Riguzo is fouled. He's been much more aggressive in the second half as well and avoided picking up those crucial fouls late.
Trying to decide who this one's going to be on. Probably should be Juzang there for the reach-in.
Instead, they'll give it to Juricic, but I'm with you. I think Juzang was the more likely guilty party. It's another 1-and-1 for Riguzo, who made 2 in his last chance. Gets the soft roll. Richmond Riguzo has made 5 consecutive free throws.
Always valuable when you have a big man who can hit from the line.
6 straight for Riguzo. Harvard's lead trimmed to 4. Important possession for the Crimson. Aiken working against Llewellyn. Catchings all alone. He has 3.
Step to the front, young man. You've been quiet all game long. Yeah, it's a huge 3 for Catchings.
He has 7. Harvard's lead is 7. Riguzo back to the bucket.
Now this is what we wanted, right? Back and forth, haymakers.
After a 23-22 first half, both teams have gotten to that 30-point mark here in half two.
Everything has to run through Aiken now, I think, if you're Harvard.
Aiken falling away. Missed it. Juricic keeps it alive. Catching, same spot, same result.
Back-to-back daggers.
Harvard's back up 8.
Would it be too cheesy to say catching's fire?
I'll allow it. Timeout, Princeton.
There may be a reason why they scored.
4-0 against Yale and Princeton. That would give them the upper hand heading to Ivy Madness a couple weeks away in New Haven. In fact, at this time, in exactly 2 weeks, we will know the teams that will be playing for the Ivy Championship. Richmond to Riri Guzzo missed. Offensive board, Stevens blocked. And a foul is called. We'll have to watch that again. Pretty clean.
Well, Catching's coming through hard with a sweep. Lewis, a good first challenge. Actually got a Riri Guzzo on the arm there. Doesn't get called for that one. And again, offensive rebounding. And
there, that was a foul.
Catching's coming down with a hammer there on Stevens.
2 free throws for Miles Stevens. He scored 18 today. In the first half, he was basically all of Princeton's offense. Everybody else was struggling. He pulled them along to keep it a game at half one.
And he still has been able to shoulder the load. Riri Guzzo has been better here in the second half, still not great. Schwieger really never came to light. He's kind of disappeared.
Yeah, he had that one spurt where he scored 5 points in like 60 seconds. Aside from that, 10 points overall for Schwieger.
Well, and even then, you know, it took some work. You know, they got him a great look for a quick catching fire 3, but he's never been able to create his own offense today like he has over the past few games.
Bryce Aikens had no issues creating offense. He scored 20 today against the league's best defender. Catchings gets it to go. He's in fuego.
Everything from his hand is falling through the hoop right now.
That's 12 for Cale Catchings, 8 late. Juricic stuffs Stevens straight up. Harvard by 9. They can melt this game down to near the 2-minute mark.
Absolutely, and that should be the plan right now. Just let Juzang hang out with it. Eventually put it in Aiken's hands with about 10 on the shot clock.
It comes to Aiken with 9 on the shot clock.
That's what you want. You can get some help.
Blows past Stevens. And it's offensive interference from Juricic, who tapped it while it was still on the cylinder.
Yeah, he wanted to try to hang to see. Was thinking maybe that ball was...
That game's still up in the air at this point. A Penn win would keep them only 1 game out as well. Penn lost, moving 2 out with 2 to play.
Well, still 2 games left to go, and it seems like it always comes down to the final weekend of the regular season, and no surprise that it will again this year.
I think in the 3 years now of the Ivy Madness era, we can say it's a smashing success. It has made every game exciting late in the year.
Absolutely.
Aiken is fouled. Second on Ethan Wright. It is the 7th on Princeton, so Bryce Aiken will shoot 1-and-1 free throws. He is an 85% free throw shooter, and with the Crimson ahead by 11.
Yeah, this is exactly the guy you want at the line, able to turn the corner there and sell the contact.
$20 today for Aiken, now 21.
So huge that he was able to come back with this Harvard team. I mean, you know, it was a good team. They played well through the non-conference, picked up some nice wins even without him. But you can see when he's on the floor, he's a game changer because of his ability to hit big shots in big spots.
He's averaging 21 points per game since returning from injury. That is a remarkable number. Making a case to be Ivy Player of the Year, even though he missed basically the entirety of the non-conference season.
Well, if you look at the award as an award for what you do within the conference, it's hard to argue that there's going to be many other players who have the same kind of resume.
To me at this point, it's either Aiken or Mie Oni from Yale. I think those at this point have separated themselves as the two that you'd have to pick between.
And certainly Oni was going to be on the favorites list coming into the season as well.
Catchings gets his hand on the pass. Still 19 to shoot for Princeton. His 11-point deficit is the Tigers' largest of the day. They need offense, and they need it fast.
Absolutely. Got to find a way to get to spark some shots up. See if they can maybe set up a dribble handoff here for Schwieger.
Guzzo spin cycle around Lewis. Ooh, that was nifty.
Well, great quick move by Guzzo, but if you're Harvard, you're not mad at giving up that 2 points.
Now the Crimson will look to run the entirety of the shot clock, bring this game inside the final 60 seconds.
Princeton has to trap. They're calling for it.
Aiken across for Kirkwood, still 10 to shoot. Now the worst thing you can do here is foul if you're Princeton this late in the clock.
They're looking to.
In the corner, Kirkwood for three. Dagger!
How about the youngsters coming up for Harvard? Big threes from Catchings. Kirkwood says goodnight, everybody.
The first year Llewellyn makes it a 10-point game. You're right, late in this game, last 5 minutes, Cale Catchings has scored 8 points. Noah Kirkwood hits that three. And Harvard's on its way to completing the season sweep of Yale and Princeton, and likely heading into next weekend as the clubhouse leaders in the Ivy League.
Well, they're going to be looked at as the favorite in a couple weeks from now when everybody gets together in New Haven.
Solid defense, big second half offense. No victory cigar for Aiken on that deep three.
He'll be happy to pot another W and see his team in first place at the end of the night, perhaps.
2 more for Miles Stevens. He gave a heck of an effort today. He scored 21. 21, though, not enough. Team effort for Harvard. 22 for Aiken. 12 for Cale Catchings. Crimson take it on senior day, winning 66-58.
And I don't think you can really understate the impact of those seniors. They came out